viewing that it can affect you and create stress in you. So just acknowledging that, y'all, that stress comes in through our sensory organs. And so for me as a yoga instructor, what I try to do is invite people to release that stress through their organs and through their body. So think about this. I've talked about how stress and trauma gets held up in the body, and our muscles have a memory. But what are you doing to release it out of your body? And then when we start thinking about the different types of stress, y'all, you remember I told you all about the 3 types of stress? You have the acute stress, the chronic stress, and then the psychological stress. And here's the deal with psychological stress. A lot of that psychological stress is based around, your the way you were brought up, like the things you were told when you were growing up. A lot of it is connected to social shaming. Do you all know what social shaming is? So social shaming is simply like when the larger dominant group of a society can shame another part or individual because of the way they are, things that they do. For example, historically in this country, Black people have been socially shamed for, I don't know, wearing natural hair, right? There was a time period where Black people were very comfortable with their dark skin and their beautiful hair, but and their beautiful skin. But then this social shaming of like this dominant culture saying no, you know, like straight hair and like lighter skin. But anyway, that's an example of social shaming. And then it took me to how social shaming is also connected to your belief system or what you were taught growing up. And y'all, many of our belief systems are rooted in religion. And no, I'm not attacking any religions. Let me make sure I'm clear on that. But we just have to acknowledge the truth. So one example of that is even people who practice other spiritual practices, especially those who were enslaved, and as they traveled over to, they were kidnapped and, you know, were enslaved and brought to the to this land. A lot of their spiritual practices were basically socially shamed to be like dark or demonic or like hoodoo and voodoo. A lot of people who talk about that don't really know about it. So that's one thing that I grew up thinking, you all, is like these experiences of social shaming. I need to find out for myself. You know, I need to find out if hoodoo and voodoo is really this dark thing. I remember even growing up, y'all, I was told that yoga, even by a pastor, he told me to stay away from that. And several people in the church were telling me to stay away from yoga because it was like this invoking of dark spirits and things like that. And you know what I noticed? A lot of people talk about things or social shame about things that they don't know about. Isn't that crazy, y'all? Let me watch my time. That's crazy because a lot of times we go with the first thing that we're told. So in my classes, I teach students that you're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your second. So your first thought is usually something that somebody else gave you. So as a little girl, my first thought about spirituality and the relationship with God, my relationship with nature and things like that, all of that was given to me by somebody else. But then as I got older, I started investigating and started chasing this awareness of wanting to know more about spirituality, about my ancestors, about the social shaming that was happening to different parts of me, being a person that is, you know, biracial. And so I just started chasing it strongly. And I started finding that that created a lot of stress. The social shaming creates a lot of stress, and that psychological stress. And a lot of us have parts of that in us that we need to get out of us. A lot of the stress that's in us came to us through other people teaching us things that aren't necessarily true. Okay, here's a good example of that, y'all. So growing up, like I told you, I grew up in the church, and I grew up being taught that Hinduism and Buddhism and all of those other practices were dark and demonic or just not the way. And I remember I was out on the West Coast, and I was staying at a friend's, and I remember she had this statue of Kali Ma. Oh, let me end that. She had a statue of Kali Ma, and I remember like it was in the room where I was sleeping, and I remember feeling scared, but it was all psychological stress, right? I didn't really know about Kali Ma or any of the deities of Hinduism. And I remember feeling scared, like really feeling like I couldn't sleep. But I didn't really know about Kali Ma, but it was something that somebody else told me that created this stress and this unknowing. So y'all, what did I do? I went and studied it, right? I went and studied Hinduism, and I'm not as deep in it as a lot of people are. Not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I learned about Kali Ma, and I'm like, man, Kali Ma is bad. Like, if you understand like who she is and what she represents and how it really is about like this conflict within and then these external things all around us, it's like, why was that rejected? Like, why did somebody teach me that? So that's something that's important to me, is like how we social shame usually the things we don't know about, right, y'all? So we socially shame others for the things that we haven't studied or haven't researched. I see a lot of social shaming going on right now with just the situation that we're in right now. But a lot of people haven't done research where they've read and studied other aspects of things. They just talk or speak on what usually somebody else has told them, or what they were socialized or social shamed into themselves, right? That's so crazy to me, y'all. So I want you to think about, like I said in the beginning, how stress comes in through our sensory organs. And I want you to think about things that you've heard and been told that creates you psychological stress. Like I gave y'all an example before, how when I grew up, I was always called a crybaby. Like, I need to quit crying so much and what I'm crying about. Like, there was this shaming of feeling my emotions. That's an example, right? And then those things become a part of like how you function and show up and see the world. And I know my time is up, so I just want to pull back, and then I want to invite you all just to see if you can identify something that came in through your sensory organs, like things you were told or things you had seen that really don't match up with what you believe, but they create this psychological stress in you. So for example, me growing up, I was told that all these other spiritual practices were dark and demonic. I was told that, and when I saw images of that, I would feel that. And so I had to come to a place for myself and breathe through that, because I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I am responsible for my second and what I do with that, right? I want y'all to think about that, like some first thoughts that you were given. All right, y'all, let's breathe together. So gently closing your eyes, and maybe even visiting some of those things you were told growing up that created this either moral conflict within you, or just this feeling of social shaming, like maybe your skin is darker and you grew up being negatively seen because you have darker skin, or maybe because your hair isn't like a straight, silky pattern or something. I don't know. There's just so many things that we can honestly say that somebody else taught us, and we ended up adopting and bringing into our own lives and our own belief systems, right? And those belief systems, y'all, can really take us somewhere, take us to a place that it wasn't even for us to go. So take a breath in, and then I invite y'all to feel where that is in your body. Whatever it is you're bringing in, where do you feel it in your body? The idea that you're thinking about. So for me, as a little girl, when I was called names like being biracial, I was called a zebra, I was called, all those names, Casper, Oreo. Where I feel that in my body is really around my gut, around my belly, And I think that had a lot to do with like, that's where your Manipura chakra is, that's where your power is. So it always felt like somebody was trying to take away my power by telling me it was something bad about being who I was. So everybody breathe into that space wherever you feel it. And then wherever you feel that, let the strong parts of you stand right next to that. So whatever that feeling is, like I just described to you all, like growing up and being told, like basically I wasn't okay. The way that I was created wasn't okay. So breathe that there, inhale and exhale there, and then let the strong parts of you stand right next to that and breathe there. Everybody take a breath in and then sigh it out. All right, y'all, I took y'all way over and I apologize for that. I don't need to be doing that. I need to keep this at 7 minutes. Y'all have a good week, and keep breathing into those spaces, and and keep reflecting on those things that you were told that may not necessarily be true, y'all.